All right, so after the guideline on the fit and proper criteria, the fit and proper declaration, as well as the probity checks required by the financial institution, now we come to the next segment under Chapter 9, which is paragraph 5. All right. Now, paragraph 5 here sets up the guidelines on standards of conduct for financial advisors and representatives. All right. This is guideline number FAA GO2, guideline number 2. Right. Now, this guideline sets out the standards of conduct expected of financial advisors and their representatives. Now, as you now must know, the guidelines just provide general guidance and best practices, and they are not intended to replace or override any legislative provisions, meaning under the FAA or the FAR. All right, you will recall that the FAA is the legislation, the primary legislation. The FAR is a subsidiary legislation, or the written notices, right? The written directions, all right? As you can see at paragraph 5.2. Now, written directions are either directives or notices, all right? And all these four instruments, the FAA, the FAR, directives, and notices, they have the force of law, all right? And the guidelines normally, generally do not have the force of law, but they are there for best practices. But they do not replace and do not override any of the relevant provisions or written directions. Alright, so the main purpose of this guideline is to foster professional standards and to enhance confidence in the financial services industry. Alright, and of course the guidelines set out below in this particular guideline FAA number 4 must be taken in relation to the types of financial services that are provided by the respective financial advisors. All right. Now, to go quickly into the standards that are expected under this set of guidelines, under B, it talks about integrity. All right. So 5.6 is quite clear. Honesty, fairness, integrity, professionalism, right? To maintain good faith, preserve public trust in the financial services industry, right? That's the integrity part. All right, so what do we mean by that, right? 5.7 give you the details, right? Should not engage in any conduct involving fraud, dishonesty, all right, or any act, any conduct that reflects adversely on the honesty, the trustworthiness, or compromises its integrity. All right, that is the standards under 5.7. Right, so anything relating to fraud, dishonesty, will be considered as a breach of the standard of integrity. All right, under paragraph C, objectivity. Right, so and insofar as the financial advisor or the financial institution is concerned, it should then exercise reasonable care and judgment, all right, to maintain objectivity in conducting its business. Yes, the business is there for profit, all right. Yes, the business is there for shareholder benefit, all right, provide employment for the staff, all right. But it must be objective, all right, in the way you deal with your customers, right? So that's the other standard, objectivity. It must be objective. What a reasonable person will think in relation to the conduct of the business by the financial advisor. Right? So 5.9 sets out a further guideline there. Avoid situations that could impair its ability to make objective decisions. Right? All right. The subjective decision will be making profit, bringing in more revenue and so on. But then you have to be objective, right? Like we have said earlier in the earlier chapters, you must concern about customer interest being the first objective, right? Customer interest is important, right? So I leave you with that point. Then the third standard requires confidentiality, all right? So there must be proper processes and procedures to ensure that the information given to you are confidential, all right, and this must be kept as such, all right, relating to a client, all right. And 5.11 said that you should not disclose to any other person any information given by a client, all right, unless by law you are required to disclose that information, right, or by the MAS requires it, or any lawful agency requires it, right. So for example, the CAD requires it, right? Then you have to disclose the information. Other than those circumstances which the law requires you to disclose, the financial institution or the financial advisor should not disclose customer information which is private and confidential. All right. I'm sure you heard of the Banking Secrecy Act, right? And so information with the bank is confidential, private and confidential, unless the law requires you to disclose, or where the customer gives you consent to disclose. Right? So apart from these 2 points, a financial advisor must keep information furnished by the client to be private and confidential. So that's the third standard that's required of you. Right? Now the fourth standard is competence. A financial advisor should act with competence and capability. All right, and ensure that all the representatives and its staff and other staff maintain the necessary knowledge and expertise in the business dealings and in the business activities. All right, so you cannot, for example, you cannot find a suitable product for a client, all right, or you don't have the necessary knowledge or skills, nor competency, then you cannot give advice in regard to those products that the client may want to buy, right? Right, and and if you need be, then you can consult other qualified professionals or advise client to seek the advice of other qualified professionals. All right, refer the client to some other professionals that may be in the position that may have the necessary qualifications and expertise to advise the client. Right. So that is key for you to worry about in terms of competency. All right, a financial institution or a financial advisor may not know all the products or all the areas that require specialist knowledge. So therefore, there's a need for you to be careful, while the financial advisor and the representatives and all the staff must acquire the necessary competency and skills, all right? But there are situations that when you are found short, therefore do not give advice unless and until you are competent and capable to do so. All right? So similarly, 5.13 says that, 5.14 says similar thing. And of course, 5.15 talks about providing the representative with the relevant training to enhance the competence, knowledge, and skills. So that is the fourth standard in terms of competence. And 5.16 talks about keeping abreast of new development, advances in technology and such. All right, and that operates a multi-tier structure. All right, so that the proper supervision it can be done. All right, in order to ensure that the institution as a whole is competent to provide the necessary advice to the client, right? So now then look at the fifth one, standard. That is due care and diligence, right? That is quite self-explanatory. I do not need to go into detail. All right. Now, in terms of due care and diligence, they break it down further, all right, to let you have a best idea what is the meaning of due care and diligence, right? First is prompt and best execution. All right. So you should take all reasonable steps, right, to process client's order promptly in accordance with the instructions from the client or on the best available terms. Again, here customer interest comes first, right? So a financial advisor should provide his client with prompt written confirmation or documentation that the client's order has been executed, right? So that's prompt and best execution, right? So that is under standard number 5, due care and diligence, prompt and best execution. All right. Now, under due care and diligence, there's also another item that under F2, supervision of representatives. All right. So the financial advisor must have a qualified and experienced supervisor in terms of overseeing the work of a financial advisor representative. And importantly, you must have the adequate system, processes, and controls, right, to ensure proper supervision of the representatives and the activities, right? So, in other words, you cannot let the representatives run wild, right? So, there must be a proper level of supervision, all right, with adequate systems and controls. All right. Then the last bit there, F3 under due care and diligence. Before cessation of business, right, before you terminate or end a business, should ensure that all its liabilities and obligations to the clients have been fully discharged and the proper arrangements have been made to put in place to ensure that the client continue to be serviced by another financial advisor if necessary, right? So when you end a business relationship, make sure that all the liabilities and obligations are fully discharged, right? Okay, so that covers due care and diligence. So those are the standards required in terms of integrity, objectivity, confidentiality, competence, due care and diligence. All right, that's in terms of what the financial advisor has to do under this set of guidelines. Right, now moving forward, then there are standards that also cover disclosure of information to client. Right, again, we have done this before, so I just want to run through this very quickly. Now, under G1, we talk about general information about the financial advisor, and the 5.23, 5.24 provides the details. This we have done earlier, so I'm going to leave that. Now, then in terms of the standard for disclosure, under G2, key features of the products. Now, that also we have talked about it earlier under product disclosure information in the notice relating to that particular issue. Now, very quickly, cast your eye down 5.25. Now, those are the key features that are expected to be disclosed in the product information disclosure requirement, right? So I look at A to G, all right? So that those features are self-explanatory. So I do not want to go into detail except for number C, the risk involved, all right? Under the footnote below, all right? So you need to discuss the risk involved, and here they give you more detail. Right, in the cases of future contracts or arrangements for the purpose of foreign exchange trading, contracts or arrangements for the purpose of leveraged foreign exchange, and other complex product transaction, the financial advisor should ensure itself that the client understands the risks related to investing in such products, and that the client has sufficient financial resources to assume the risk and bear the potential loss of investing in such products. All right, we have covered in part on this point regarding the investment-linked life policies, where the underlying product are complex products such as derivatives. Right? So, a key feature of the product is the risk. Right? So, all the risk related to a particular product must be disclosed. All right, take a look from A to G. All right, so I highlighted C. And I wish also to highlight G, all right, in terms of switching from the original product to the replacement product. All right, now we have done this again before under switching, the notice on switching. So I'll leave you with that one. Now then G3, we talk about warning, exclusion, and disclaimers. This we have done. Now G4 talks about clear, adequate, and not false or misleading. These have been repeated throughout this particular course or program. G5, fact and opinion, I've done that for you earlier. And G6 talks about the remuneration, right? Where the financial advisor should disclose in writing to his client all remuneration, including any commission, fees, and etc. This we also have done, right? So let's have a quick look at 5.30, 5.30, 5.30, all the way to 5.35, right? So here they give you more guidelines in terms of the standards expected of financial advisor in relation to product information disclosure. Right, for completeness sake, I just read to you 5.35, 5.35. In the case of a life policy, a financial advisor should disclose to its client the distribution cost item in the benefit illustration and will not be required to disclose the amount and type of remuneration as stated above. Right? So they give you guidelines as to the standard that requires disclosure. Now maybe for completeness sake, look at 5.32, 5.32, where financial advisor receives trailer commissions, right? Trailer commissions, soft commissions, or such other benefits from a product provider. All right, for example, from an insurer. All right, a financial advisor may be given financial advisory service on insurance, and the insurer is the underwriter. It should disclose to the client the amount of such commissions and benefits. Right? Right. Similarly, 5.31 is a similar argument. If financial advisor receives commission of product provider on investment products, so on behalf of the product provider, it should disclose to the client the amount of commission they receive on the investment product it recommends. All right, so that the client is in a position to make an informed decision. All right, so this financial advisor is recommending a product or selling a product, right? And you receive a commission, right? Those are the standards of requirement in terms of product information disclosure. Right, now very quickly I move on to H, paragraph H, know your client. Now this one I do not want to go into details again. All right, we have done quite a bit of that. So take a look at H2, 5.37 to 5.39, okay? Then quickly H3, record keeping, we have done that as well, so I move on. Now H4, prevention of money laundering, we have gone into details on that particular notice and guideline on the prevention of money laundering and countering the financing of terrorism. Right. So I, similarly, conflicts of interest, we have done a lot of that as well. Then paragraph J, complaints handling. Now this one we haven't done too much of it, so I just spent some time on that one. So financial advisors should have in place adequate procedures and processes for handling complaints relating to his financial advisory business. Alright, now in the other guideline on fair dealing outcomes, there is an outcome, I think it's under outcome number 5, where the guideline for fair dealings will cover complaints handling. How a financial advisor or a financial institution handles customer complaints. Now here under this particular guideline, it also provides some guidance on complaints handling. Okay. So similarly, financial advisor must have in place the processes, procedures for handling complaints. Generally, there will be a department and sufficiently resourced by people to take phone calls, to investigate complaints, all right, asking the clients to come down or going to the client's place, the officer going down to the client's place or the residents to talk about the client's complaints and see how best to resolve any complaints, right? And 5.46 provide the standards, right? It should ensure complaints are handled in a fair, timely, and appropriate manner. All right, fair, timely, and appropriate manner. Complaints are promptly investigated and responded to, and an officer is designed to handle all complaints. All right, in short, there should be a complaints bureau, as it were, a complaints division, all right, of the financial advisor corporation or the financial institution, right? And 5.47 says that the financial advisor should maintain a register of complaints. All right, so the complaints department or the complaints bureau of the financial advisor, all right, must maintain this register of complaints. So details of the complaint, how they have been dealt with, and the senior management or even the board of directors, all right, should look at this particular register, all right, and take reports from the complaints department, the head of the complaints department, in order to review the complaints in the register regularly, all right, to see whether there's any particular trend or any particular officer who has often been complained against, so that remedial action can be taken, all right, to reduce the number of complaints, to reduce the frequency of complaints. Right? In other words, to establish any gaps why complaints arise, and in what way, and in what manner, and what type of complaints. Okay. Now the last point at paragraph 5 is compliance with the law. Well, that is self-explanatory. All right. All financial institutions, financial advisors, and their representatives must comply with the relevant laws and rules and regulations governing their business activities, right? So very, very quickly, that covers the guideline relating to the standards of conduct for financial advisors and the representatives. Now, moving very quickly, now we look at paragraph 6 of this particular chapter 9. Now, these are the guidelines on the use of the word independent by financial advisors. All right. Now, I think in chapter 2 or chapter 2, I believe, we have talked about the word independent. All right. There's some of the words, all right, such as financial advisor, insurance broker, and this word independent are restricted words. All right. Restricted meaning that it cannot be used anyhow and in any manner. All right. The word independent gives the connotation, all right, that the advice given by the financial advisor is independent. All right, without any bias at all. All right. So in other words, the financial advisor is independent of the service provider, right, or the product provider in that regard. So as a result of which, independent must be used in a proper way. All right. So it must the financial advisor must be satisfied, right, that the customers are not in a way within quotation mark misled. All right. Because if you look at 6.4, it clearly set out the only financial advisors which can clearly demonstrate that they do not have financial or commercial links with product providers that are capable of influencing, all right, some undue influence there, influencing that recommendations should use the term independent. All right, somehow there are commercial links, there are financial links with product providers. All right, so if there are any such links, right, that may be viewed as your advice being not objective, not being independent, right? So therefore, the financial advisor or the institution must be careful. Now, 6.4b says, before using the term independent, financial advisors should be satisfied in the light of their own particular circumstances that are in compliance with Regulation 21 or the Financial Advisors Regulation. Right? Now, given the diversity of business and financial arrangements and the fact that the financial advisor market is still at a very early stage of development, now relatively we are still young in terms of the financial market industry, the financial advisory market industry, compared to, say, for example, London or New York. So we are still very young, and even Tokyo. Right? The MAS expects only a small number of financial advisors in Singapore to be able to use the term independent. Now that is key. I want to pause for a while, right? So if a financial advisor wishes to use this term independent, it must be very careful, because MAS is of the view for now that only a small number of financial advisors in Singapore be able to use such a term. Somehow the financial advisors are somehow related, financially or commercially or otherwise. Right? So therefore, this issue of being non-independent, right? And of course, the key part is the next sentence. These guidelines adopt a principle-based approach. Right? So MAS, underline this one, will adopt a principle-based approach. Right? Rather than a detailed prescriptive approach in determining whether a financial advisor can use the term independent. All right? So it's based on principles. rather than a prescriptive, right? MAS telling you what and how, all right? So if a financial advisor wishes to use that particular term independent to describe its business activity, then MAS is going to apply a principle-based approach, right? To see whether you as a financial advisor can use that term independent. Now, of course, here they give you further guidelines as to when and how you can use a particular term. All right. So look at under background information, right? Payment and ownership structures between financial advisors and product providers have become increasingly complex and diverse. All right. So what is the relationship between the financial advisor providing financial advisory services and the product providers that the financial advisors are acting for and on behalf? So this relationship has become complex and diverse, all right? Because somehow there are relationships, all right? Financial relationship, cross-shareholdings, for example, or other commercial links, all right? So in that particular case, in that particular situation, then it is very difficult for a financial advisor to say or to claim that it is independent, right? Investors are often not fully aware of the existence, nature, or implications of these payment or ownership structures, right? It is not that transparent. So commercial agreements between financial advisors and product providers may also give rise to issues relating to the independence of financial advisors, right? So I just pause there for a while to allow you to understand why there is this reason to restrict the use of the word independent. Right? Right? Look at 6.7. Here, further guidelines are given as to the background in which whether a financial advisor can or cannot use the word independent. Now, some financial advisors may use the word independent in their businesses, in their business names. All right, independent, ABC financial advisor, independent, right? Or in any derivation, in any word that describes that particular financial advisor as an independent entity, right? Or in respect of the provision of any financial advisory services, right? So they may also wish to promote or advertise their services as being independent. However, now I want you to underline this. However, the use of the word independent by a financial advisor, as I said earlier, has strong connotation. Underline the two words, strong connotation. All right, it has serious implication, right, for the investing public, particularly the retail